I chose this road, this path, my path. People ask, where are you going? Do you know what you're going to do? There are so many different directions I could take. Now I'm supposed to choose one? I am confident. I am curious. I am ready to figure out who I am. I'm on a mysterious journey into the unknown for the first time in my life. I will explore all of its twists and turns, its side trips, its surprises. Because this road leads to me. I am ready.
The Bailey Oratorical is one of Juniata's longest academic traditions. It was started in 1910 as a way to honor Judge John Bailey. The Bailey family gave the prize money. I think it was something like $20. So the Bailey has grown in ways I think many people never expected. It used to be held in the Carnegie Museum space, and there was one round. There were 9 people that participated. We moved to what used to be called the Faculty Lounge, which is now a part of the Ellis dining room. We outgrew that space. We moved to the ballroom in Ellis. We outgrew that space. So it's exciting, and I think it says a lot about the Juniata community and how much we value the student voice and the opportunity for students to speak their mind and take a stand, that we have grown into the bigger venues on campus over the years. So for the prompt this year, we were inspired by the Believe campaign, and we liked the idea of that language. So we started thinking about the NPR series, National Public Radio series, This I Believe, which was started in 1951 by journalist Robert Murrow. And he believed that having everyday people talk about the core beliefs that shape their lives would create a space on which we could build some shared and common understanding. Given the times we're in, we really believe the timing of this kind of prompt was really appropriate. So it's our hope that students might actually contribute these essays that they've written to that series on the radio.
What surprised me the most of coming to Juniata was actually at the end when I was walking across the stage at commencement, and I looked out not only to see my family, but to see all of the people, the students and the faculty that helped me get to this moment in my life, and just how important spending 4 years at 1700 Moore Street was to the person I am today. don't have a major, we have what's called a program of emphasis, where one can put together many disciplines to craft their own educational experience that's surrounded by multiple advisors that you choose to help you along the way. The program of emphasis is different from a major because it allows a student to explore different disciplines and put them together for an education. The POE is an experience, not just an education.
Juanita, coffee's ready. Juniata, coffee's up. Medium coffee for Juniata.
It is Juniata. Juniata.
Juanita, coffee for Juanita.
Juniata. Juniata.
We welcome all of you to the weekend, alumni, spouses, partners, friends who have joined with you. And I look forward, Jennifer and I do, to spending time with you these next couple of days on your reconnection time.
Obviously, Juniata has meant so much to me. It's, you know, we arrive here, and it's usually a beautiful day, and it's a nice ride up, and you look around, and you have a million memories, a million good memories and thoughts of wonderful people. My friends, my surgeon, my professors, my wife, my Juniata. I'm very, very proud to be an alum, and very, very flattered by this award. Thank you.
What do you say? Show us, Phil. Show us what you have. Now, wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's show them the real price. $7 million plus. Give yourselves a hand. Come on, give yourselves a hand. This is the largest class gift ever given by any class ever here at Juniata.
Class 1968, I will say that our students will be thankful for your gifts. Our students are the recipients of your generosity. Our students will benefit from your spirit of giving. All of your gifts will make a difference in the lives of these 18 and 22-year-old kids who come here waiting to be influenced by something. And I know in talking with many of you already, something happened during your 4 years here that made you do this. And this is what we want to do for those students that are choosing Juniata today. Thank you so much. Cheers to all of you.
Wayne and I have talked a lot about the potential that people saw in us and how in our life there were people who supported us and guided us and mentored us. And in many ways, they helped us achieve things that maybe we could only dream about. Well, the Belief campaign is a little bit like that. You might be interested. I'm Carol Pletcher. I was in the class of '66, where I was a chemistry major. And then after that, I went to the University of Michigan, did a master's in physical chemistry. And then I got a PhD in biochemistry at the University of Minnesota. In a quite amazing way, I was able to mix my science background with business management. And my last position, I was Cargill's Chief Innovation Officer. It was a fabulous career. One of the interesting things about being a young woman in college in the early '60s is the scarcity of professional women as role models. How could I have lucked out? Here at Juniata were these two fabulous role models. First was Eva Hartzler, who was a professor in biochemistry. And the second was Betty Ann Cherry, who was a professor in this great liberal arts class called Great Epochs. How could you luck out any better than that? You come from a small town where, as far as I can remember, I did not know one professional woman in my life up until the moment I went to Juniata. And then here were these two sterling examples that helped inform how I was going to assemble my life for the next 50-some years. So Wayne's background is quite a bit different from mine. His circumstances were, I would say, challenging. And the great thing for him, though, is that he had mentors who recognized his potential and his drive and encouraged him to embark on things that he probably could only have dreamed of. So it is by standing on the shoulders of those before us that we are in a position to make the world better. And as far as Wayne and I are concerned, education is the key. We believe in the power of education. It was transformative in our careers and in our lives. And our gift is a statement of our belief. Oh, let's go back to this. So Wayne has lymphoma. He has a rare cell type, and the lingo called a double hit. And what happens is that there's a second mutation. And that second mutation somehow or other protects the cancer cell from dying and makes it resistant. And so that's what we got. Our gift for the campaign is the Pletcher Science Scholarship. It's $1 million, and our intention is to ease the journey of students in this generation. We have a history of people helping us along the way, and it is our intention now to help this generation move through their education into their careers so that they can do wonderful things. So this gift that we're making is for students, and we love students. Why do we love students? We love students because they have energy and they have enthusiasm, and we just love the dynamics of young people who are not overpowered by what seem to be intractable problems. The first step of making dreams come true is to saying them out loud. Because once you can say them out loud, then there are people who can support you and guide you and help make those dreams come true. And so today, what I hope you will do is take that number that takes your breath away and say it out loud and see if we can't make it happen for the Belief campaign.
The The Bailey Oratorical is one of Juniata's longest academic traditions. It was started in 1910 as a way to honor Judge John Bailey. The Bailey family gave the prize money. I think it was something like $20. So the Bailey has grown in ways I think many people never expected. It used to be held in the Carnegie Museum space, and there was one round. There were 9 people that participated. We moved to what used to be called the Faculty Lounge, which is now a part of the Ellis dining room. We outgrew that space. We moved to the ballroom in Ellis. We outgrew that space. So it's exciting, and I think it says a lot about the Juniata community and how much we value the student voice and the opportunity for students to speak their mind and take a stand, that we have grown into the bigger venues on campus over the years. So for the prompt this year, we were inspired by the Believe campaign, and we liked the idea of that language. So we started thinking about the NPR series, National Public Radio series, This I Believe, which was started in 1951 by journalist Robert Murrow. And he believed that having everyday people talk about the core beliefs that shape their lives would create a space on which we could build some shared and common understanding. Given the times we're in, we really believe the timing of this kind of prompt was really appropriate. So it's our hope that students might actually contribute these essays that they've written to that series on the radio.
If we had learned from the past, I wouldn't have lost a large number of my family during the genocide in 1994, after the crime of the Holocaust, when the world said never again to genocide. Same for Cambodia, Bosnia, Darfur. They all passed through the horrors of the genocide, one after another. Why? Because we failed to learn from the past. As George Santayana said, those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Past is a great teacher to create a present and a future just community. No, we don't have to let injustice stand in our communities. There is a possibility for our communities to be more just. If we empower through education, eradicate inequality, and act against injustice. In these 3 ways, we can learn from the past to ensure that injustice never and ever happen again. If you want to know who is going to make our communities more just, take a look in the mirror or take a selfie.
Walked our campus, you've spent hours in the classroom. What would you want to tell your undergraduate self? It's clear that you love Juniata. It's clear that you grew a lot.
I'd like to tell my undergraduate self what is written on your shirt. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. Isn't that great? Okay, so let me tell you a story. When I was, maybe a junior here, they invited somebody to give a colloquium. This guy talked about general relativity and astrophysics and stuff like that. He had gotten his degree at Princeton, which is known for that kind of stuff. And afterwards, as often happens with visitors like that, he talked to some of the students. And we asked him about things like going to graduate school. So I said, well, I'd read that Princeton had the best graduate program in the United States, and so I thought I would like to go to Princeton. And he said, a student from Juniata can't get into Princeton. Well, I applied to Princeton. I applied to Princeton, I applied to Caltech, I applied to Stanford and MIT and Harvard, and I got into all of them. And I went to Princeton to visit and found out that I didn't like it. I didn't like the feel of Princeton. So I called up the guy who became my thesis advisor at MIT from the lobby of the Princeton Physics Building and asked if I could come and visit him. And he said yes, and I went there, and it was so wonderful to have Dan Kleppner as my thesis advisor. So, okay, so that's not exactly advice, but it's a story. Don't let anybody sell you short. Okay, especially if you're a Juniatian, because we can do anything, as you well know.
How can a college become a part of you? It's just school, right? Yet in this quiet, powerful place, it's different. It's like you feel it in your gut. The sense of the possible. Every day, I feel my purpose. My friendships here. This energy. It's all of us working together to change this beautiful mess of a world. I've learned so much already. I wonder, what's next? It gets into your being, this place. I know I will take it with me, wherever I go. This is not just school. This is Juniata.
I chose this road, this path, my path. People ask, where are you going? Do you know what you're going to do? There are so many different directions I could take. Now I'm supposed to choose one? I am confident. I am curious. I am ready to figure out who I am. I'm on a mysterious journey into the unknown for the first time in my life. I will explore all of its twists and turns, its side trips, its surprises. Because this road leads to me. I am ready.
The Bailey Oratorical is
Well, good evening, everybody. Are we ready? Yes. Welcome to the 2019 Bailey Oratorical. Welcome students, faculty, staff, guests, judges. Special thanks to our communications faculty, Dr. Sarah Worley, Dr. Grace Falla, Jared LeGroux, Dr. Donna Weimer. I know if you can see these cameras out here, she is watching in Never Never Land. Dr. Weimer is under the weather. But I know how much this event means to Dr. Weimer. So we're going to send her a little message. Okay? Are you ready to join me in giving a little applause and energy to Dr. Weimer as she watches from afar? So this is what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to sort of bring the level down to a nice casual atmosphere before we get serious with our speeches. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, Dr. Weimer. Okay, you ready? Dr. Weimer, hopefully you're out there watching this. Ready? Here we go. Dr. Weimer. Dr. Weimer. Dr. Weimer. Dr. Weimer, we miss you. She loves this event. Dr. Weimer loves this event. Beside her coronary that she has every February prior to this, which she begins to pace and work toward getting to tonight, she is so impassioned about what this event means for the Juniata community. She brought her love to me when I got to learn about the Baileys in the spring of 2013. This is my 7th Bailey, and every single year I am inspired, and I know you will be as well. This is Juniata's oldest academic tradition. You can read about the history in the program, about how it got started and when it got started. I encourage you to do so. It is truly about bringing our community together to talk about a topic that inspires all of you, from our very own students. And I want to congratulate our finalists that sit before me. I also want to thank the nearly 40 other students who took part in the preliminaries. A round of applause for everybody who took part in the Baileys this year. So tonight, our contestants will be addressing this, I believe. How can your core beliefs shape our future? That is the prompt. I am confident that I look at these, 7 students before me. They're going to inspire us with their words, and after tonight, with their actions. They're going to share their intellect, their passion, their dreams for the future. Good luck, students. It's my pleasure now to turn the program over to Dr. Lynn Cockett, who is going to introduce our judges. Welcome, everybody, to the Baileys.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I, too, want to echo President Troja's remarks about the 39 students who presented in the preliminary round a Saturday a week and a half ago. It was an amazing day of great speeches, and narrowing it down to 7 was really hard. So tonight's going to be hard, too. I have a bunch of people I need to thank real quick, and then we'll turn it over to Sarah, and we'll get you to the good stuff. So we have 4 judges who helped us with the preliminary round. They're all Juniata alums: Morgan Harrell, Stephanie Najiru, Kirsten McKenzie-Reed, and Haley Schneider. Would you help me thank them? Because I'm sure they're watching. Let me also say that the Bailey doesn't come off without a lot of hands, making it less than heavy work. I wouldn't say light, right, Heather? So first and foremost, Heather Bumbarger. Thank you, Heather. Additionally, we want to thank Luke Frigello and the DMS, Jesse Sullivan, Lori Scheidler and the folks in facilities, The CMC Club, Communication and Media Club, for providing the refreshments that you'll get to enjoy after the speeches and before the judges come back. And the faculty in our department, so Dr. Falla, Dr. Weimer, Jared LeGroux, Dr. Worley, and Melissa McBrayer. They have all put in lots of time in the past week and a half, and so I'm grateful for your collegiality and your friendship. I want to also thank the president and the provost for their support of this great event. And now tonight's judges. So first we have Dustin Gee from the class of 2010. Yeah. Dr. Rob Gillio, one of the medical directors at J.C. Blair Hospital. And Loni Kline from the class of 03. Before I turn things over to Sarah, let me just say one last thing. Please silence your cell phones. Thank you, and have a great evening. Sarah.
Thank you for all of you this evening for showing up here and being a part of this special event. And a special welcome to all those families, alums, and friends who are live streaming the Bailey from all over the world. We are, again, grateful for the attendance and for the ongoing support that we receive for this event. This year's Bailey topic was inspired by the National Public Radio series This I Believe, which is based on a 1950s radio program hosted by acclaimed journalist Edward R. Murrow. Through This I Believe, Murrow intended to create a space where the personal philosophies of thoughtful men and women from all walks of life could be shared. The program sought to point to the common meeting ground of beliefs, which is the essence of brotherhood and the floor of our civilization, according to Murrow. Thus, it provides the ground on which we can build a shared future. Tonight, we will hear Juniata students talk about their beliefs. Many wonder what criteria the judges use in determining who wins tonight. So in brief, let me sort of give you an overview. The speeches are persuasive intent, okay? These are in their intent. They are argumentative. They are making a case to you tonight. And in 6 to 8 minutes, these finalists will invite you to share their point of view. Their overall residual message must be clear. They must support it with clear structure and organization, have a clear line of reasoning, and a variety of evidence to support their argument. In addition, they must adapt their message to this audience, engage us emotionally, and enhance their message with effective delivery. Right? Okay. We ask that you please give these speakers your undivided attention. And as my colleague Lynn asked, please turn off devices, right? This is a space for us to be present and to reduce the distractions, right, for those around us who are listening, but also the potential distractions for our speakers who will be up here this evening. So, based on the random order, they each selected a number out of the loving cup at about 7 o'clock this evening, and here is the order in which they will present this evening. First, we will have Taylor Hallabuk, Anna Kauffman, Michael Realbuto, Vinnie Caroselli, Theresa Joson, Shamya Butler-Bonner, and Amelie Buenrrostro. Right, so that will be the order for this evening. Following the final speaker, the judges will leave the room to deliberate for about 15 to 20 minutes, and they will return. We'll announce the results. Please stay in your seats. Don't get up and run out when the last speaker finishes so that we can get the judges out of the room, and we have a few announcements and prizes and all sorts of fun stuff. So just stay put for a second. Tonight, we celebrate the student voice and its power to shape our community and our understanding of the world around us. The Bailey Oratorical creates a space for ideas to be expressed and challenged. We invite you to listen tonight with an open mind and an open heart to the perspectives and ideas of these 7 members of our Juniata community, and to imagine together the possibilities for how their core beliefs can shape our shared future. Thank you. Taylor Hallabuk.
Taylor Hallabuk. I've always been really good at making inappropriately timed jokes. Like the one time when I was in 4th grade and my entire family and I witnessed my grandma fall down a flight of stairs. She was totally fine, just a couple of scratches and bruises. But as we were watching her stand up, without thinking, I blurted, "I don't think I've ever seen Grammy move that fast." Immediately, my parents gave me that awful look of disappointment, but my grandma rose to her feet, dusted herself off, and laughed. Of course it was embarrassing. And yes, for a split second, I feared for her life. But once it was all over, there was nothing we could do but make light of the situation and share a few chuckles. You know what I'm talking about. Those times when you want to laugh, but society says no. Well, I want to challenge that. I believe humor heals us. There's a time and place for every emotion, but humor has the power to transform us by coping with our insecurities, mending our heartbreak in interpersonal relationships, and unifying our relationship with a diverse society, bringing us closer to our desired future. So what do I mean coping with our insecurities? It means laughing at the most embarrassing parts of ourselves. Many psychologists call this self-enhancing humor, a style of humor related to having a good-natured attitude toward life, having the ability to laugh at yourself in a constructive, non-detrimental manner. Sometimes we're weird, clumsy, and uncomfortably awkward, like the other day when the employee at the airport checked my passport and told me to have a good flight, and I said, "Thanks, you too." Growing up as a non-traditional identifying female, preferring to defy stereotypical definitions of what it means to be female, I had a hard time becoming comfortable in my own skin. The most defining parts of my identity quickly turned into my biggest insecurities. I spent the majority of my time in high school battling with my mental health, frequenting the counseling office, and fighting against myself. It wasn't until I recognized these insecurities, became comfortable with them, and learned to laugh at myself that I began to accept myself for who I was. For example, I used to get called a man in high school, even before I cut my hair, and it used to eat at me. I would get so humiliated that I would spend my days desperately trying to fade into the background. Now, when I meet someone new and I can tell they're trying to decide if I'm a girl or a guy, I can find humor in their face when they ask for my name as an attempt to find an answer. And I say Taylor. And their face says, "Oh man, that doesn't help." I walk away and laugh because the majority of the time, everyone has good intentions. They're just curious. And I love it. Blurring the lines of gender is a strength of mine now, not a weakness. Researchers from the University of Hong Kong discovered that self-enhancing humor is strongly related to positive mental health. Look at me, saving money and becoming my own therapist. Humor helped me to cope. It has also helped me heal my interpersonal relationships by mending heartbreak. One moment that I will never forget happened to me in 11th grade of high school. I was 16, just finishing up the best summer ever. I spent the majority of those days with my two best friends, Autumn and Brendan. Those two were inseparable, and I got to be the lucky third wheel or the comedic underdeveloped best friend. The weekend before the school year began, Brendan was killed in a drunk driving accident. To this day, I struggle to describe the feeling of attending my best friend's funeral when I hope to be sitting around the campfire with him instead. At his viewing, Autumn was asked to stand in the front with Brendan's family. When I got there, she wrapped her arms around me and cried, but she pulled back and smiled and said, "Do you want me to come up with you to see him?" I nodded my head yes, unable to make the words come out of my mouth. She grabbed my hand, squeezing so tight that I could feel all of her pain and sorrow through our intertwined fingers. When we got to the casket to visit Brendan one last time, Autumn points to him and giggles, "Taylor, look how much hair gel they put in him. God, you would hate the way that looks." I could still feel the tightness of her grasp, but I felt her body ease as she rested her head on my shoulder. As explained by Stanford psychologist Max McClure, humor exerts its psychological effect by forcing a change of perspective. I smiled and laughed along with her. Life is harshly unexpected and unapologetically filled with sorrow, but humor can help heal our suffering. In that moment, I didn't have an answer for how I would continue moving forward in a world without Brendan, but I knew we would be okay. If we can remember to laugh with one another and change our perspective, even in the most heart-wrenching situations, then we can heal by using humor to mend our heartbreak together. So far, we looked at how humor heals our relationships with ourselves and others. Now let's focus on how humor unifies our society in times of division. The 2016 presidential election left the United States greatly divided due to political disagreement. However, humor is the common ground on which all of us, no matter our affiliations, can be brought back together. This might possibly be the one time that social media has helped with this. After the results on Election Day, political memes were being shared constantly, representing a variety of political viewpoints, shedding light on the absurdity of it all. Examples of this include photos of Trump with the caption, "That darn Hillary rigged the debate with facts." Photos of Clinton captioned, "Hillary 2016, only because she's not Trump." And photos of them combined captioned, "If Donald and Hillary were on a boat together in the middle of the ocean, who would survive? America." Now, clearly, these can be created and shared by absolutely anyone on the internet, heavily influenced by their own bias, but regardless, there was something for every politically engaged person to laugh at. Humor allows us to put our guard down, to be vulnerable with others, and reminds us of the humanity within us all. Famous actor and comedian Robin Williams explains, "Comedy is acting out optimism." These political memes didn't change the outcome of the election. They just helped us cope with the results, find common ground with others, and briefly laugh at the election. Humor allows us to unify the diversity within our society by laughing when all else fails, giving us the space to connect with those we fundamentally disagree with. This helps us heal in times of division. Just like my grandma's bruises, slowly fading after the great fall, humor heals us. It helps us cope, it helps us mend, and it helps us unify. Humor brings us closer to our desired future. Even today, at our annual Bailey Oratorical contest, Juniata's oldest and most prestigious academic tradition, I've publicly managed to make a joke about my grandma falling, acknowledge and laugh at my deepest insecurities, and even tossed in some political humor as well. We need to embrace the laughter and begin our own healing process. I call on all of you to find and enjoy the humor in life, to transform your awkward, uncomfortable, challenging moments by laughing. We owe it to ourselves to start now. And always remember, as my grandmother once said, ouch.
Anna Kauffman. Picture this. In the middle of the quad between the library and gym, there's a huge metal wheel mounted on an axle. Your task is to get that wheel to spin as fast and as long as possible. So, where would you begin? Personally, I'd recommend using the flywheel effect, a concept popularized by strategist Jim Collins and adapted by Amazon as its guiding business model. I first came across the flywheel effect while studying marketing analytics here at Juniata. In the business world, the flywheel replaces linear strategies with a dynamic approach to growth that harnesses momentum. While sustaining momentum is great for business and could be even used to spin the wheel on the quad, the flywheel effect got me to thinking, what if we looked at this concept outside of the office and it became the mentality through which we viewed the world around us? I believe in the flywheel as a powerful mentality that we need to adopt. To me, the flywheel image emphasizes the momentum required to make lasting social change. We need to harness momentum because progress is a cumulative process. Step by step, action by action, turn by turn, we can spin the wheel of progress to generate spectacular results. As a society, we can gain and sustain momentum by understanding the 3 core principles of the flywheel: the spark that sets things in motion, the friction that impacts our forward momentum, and the intentionality of where we place our energy. Let's start things off with a spark. You and I do not require an advanced knowledge of physics to understand how we can get the flywheel to move. In fact, it really just comes down to Sir Isaac Newton's first law of motion, which states a body at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. We need to be in motion. When we try to tackle a challenge, getting started is often the hardest part. It's important to recognize the dissonance between saying and doing. We must strike the first match and spark a fire within us to turn words into action. The flywheel mentality is burned in the forefront of my mind, though that was not always the case, nor did I really have a name for it at the time. December 2007, 7th grade, I watched as America elected, for the first time, an African-American president. On that day, President Barack Obama did not randomly appear on the ballot. He sparked a movement with his grassroots action. His influential promise, change we can believe in, was the axle by which his platform, his own flywheel, turned. With his powerful agenda behind him, Obama built momentum among the American people and inspired them to move. And at my young and impressionable age, President Barack Obama inspired me to move, to question, why did it take 44 presidents for us to see diversity among our leading officials? The flywheel can get us to move, to capture our momentum and manifest change. But first, we must recognize its potential. We must spark our initial push. We must live life like a flywheel, in motion. Now that you know how to get the wheel of change to move, let's explore how friction can impact our motion and forward momentum. If I were to cut in line at Baker at lunch rush, or ate my roommate's food without asking, what would happen? Honestly, probably not much. People are typically conflict averse. They don't want to generate friction between one another. Though friction is inevitable. It's science. Circling back to Newton, his third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For all the good that can come from change, there will be resistance, doubters, naysayers, people who want the wheel to come to a halt. In the words of Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist who escaped slavery, without struggle, there is no progress. Friction is challenging each other's beliefs and opening the flow for discourse. But by the same token, friction also comes to being ignorant to some of today's most brutal realities of the world. Friction is vital to challenging assumptions. It's a series of checks and balances that serve a purpose. Friction is not a hard stop, but rather a regulatory process that ensures we do not spin out of control. Without friction, my sister would not be dating a first-generation immigrant, women across America would not have the right to vote, and my good friends who are members of the LGBTQ+ community would not have been legally allowed to get married. But we still have work to do. Climate change, gun violence, inequalities, nuclear proliferation, poverty, and an affordable education for all. These things all create friction, but the flywheel is designed to handle lasting social change. I've told you there needs to be a spark to get the wheel in motion. You know friction is vital to the checks and balances of society. And now I ask everyone, how do we intentionally use our collective energy to move beyond friction and sustain social change? To answer this question of intentionality, we can look at a successful business case. The #1 principle that fuels Amazon's incredible growth is simple. According to Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, the flywheel is a virtuous circle that would generate growth for as long as the company put the interests of their customers first. So what is he saying? And what does that mean for us? As a society, to keep our flywheel turning, we must put our people first. Putting people first will change the way that we collectively face challenges. The power of the flywheel is that it's incredibly efficient at creating and releasing energy because no one person is in control. So let's go back to that flywheel on the quad. To get it to move as fast and as long as possible, think about the flywheel mentality. So you start with a push, but your effort goes unnoticed. You push again with great effort, and the wheel inches forward. You call out to people to join you in your efforts, a nearby student walking to class, President Troha, Mr. Oak from Baker, and many others. Soon, there are countless pairs of hands pushing the wheel. After minutes of exertion, the wheel finally completes one turn, then two. Push after push, turn after turn, the wheel's momentum builds steadily until at some point, aha, breakthrough. The wheel is powered forward through the force of its own weight in our intentional motion. Whose push tipped the scale does not matter. What matters is that we are in motion. I believe that living with a flywheel mentality enables us to harness and understand the energy we need to propel our society and world forward. We must break away from our rigid viewpoints and challenge ourselves to view the world dynamically. No matter how long it takes, no matter the resistance we face, and no matter how dramatic the end result, no average to awesome or good to great transformation happened in one fell swoop. There was no single defining action and no wrenching revolution. Each turn appears small and trivial initially, but creates the opportunity to move towards more ambitious results. As more and more results accumulate and more people throw their weight behind the wheel, momentum builds. It only takes one person to start a movement, but it takes all of us to sustain momentum required for change.
Realbuto. Have you ever felt what it's like to have your trust broken? It hurts. It makes us swear we'll never put that much trust into someone ever again. But we do. Our trust is broken again. We say, okay, I'm never opening myself back up to someone ever again. But we do. Why? Don't we yearn to be comforted? Don't we yearn for happiness? Mostly, though, we long for satisfying human relationships. I believe in trust because it's trust that will shape our future. According to opinion polls, only 1/3 of Americans say most people can be trusted these days. Half felt that way in 1972. After only 40 years, a record high of 2/3 of Americans say you can't be too careful in dealing with people. It's obvious that we are heading in the wrong direction as a country, but I do believe it can be resurrected. There are 3 values I want to break down when it comes to solving this issue: accountability, authenticity, and patience. As individuals, it's essential that we adopt these values today in order to shape a more trusting society tomorrow. So accountability, that's in here. It's mental. Resolving trust issues is not about getting someone else to be trustworthy, it's about you trusting yourself. It's like that New Year's Day diet you meant to start, that workout you meant to get to the other day, or that homework that you put off until tomorrow morning. The reality is, if you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it, you're not being accountable with yourself, and therefore you're not being trustworthy with yourself. We've all heard the story of the boy who cried wolf. Imagine telling your little brother or daughter that you're going to play with her and then not doing it. Eventually the child will learn that you're not trustworthy. The same applies with your inner child. If you tell yourself, your inner child, that you're going to take care of yourself in some way and then you don't do it, your inner child learns that there's no loving inner adult to trust. And since so many of us project onto others our own inner issues, it's likely that if we're not trustworthy with ourselves, will project untrustworthiness onto others. So if you promise yourself you'll start that diet, or go to the gym, or get your homework done by tonight, then do it. Hold yourself accountable. It sounds so simple, yet so many of us don't do it. Hurdling this mental roadblock will go such a long way when it comes to trusting others, because at the end of the day, how are you supposed to expect others to count on you when you have a hard time holding your own self accountable? Developing this strong mentality will help us be able to place full trust in ourselves, but how do we portray this trust that we feel with ourselves to others? How do we get others to trust us in this dishonest society that we live in? Authenticity. It comes from here. We have to show people our whole heart, our whole self, in order to portray true trustworthiness. This idea is actually deeply rooted in me. Growing up, I struggled being my whole self, as I'm sure a lot of you did. In high school, I forced my way into this friend group made up of your stereotypical jocks. These were the group of kids that weren't very accepting. They'd walk through the halls like they owned the school, not afraid of making hurtful jokes to those who they felt were beneath them. I remember focusing every day on not falling beneath them, so I mirrored them. When they laughed, I laughed. When they talked about someone behind their back, I did the same. I was scared of being this slice but different from them, so I wore a mask. Closed up, watching cautiously, managing this tight, top-down control. There was a valve in my throat. I knew what I felt deep inside, but I rarely expressed it. From the outside, this looked like a lack of trust in other people, and while this was part of it, I mainly didn't trust myself. I didn't trust that the true me was good enough or likable enough. I was so worried about fitting in that I forgot who I really was. There used to be a time when I considered myself kind, accepting, someone who people could always rely on. And what I didn't realize until later was that I still possessed these qualities. They were simply buried. But I took a long, hard look at myself in the mirror and I thought, are these things I'm trying to hide about myself really so bad or so weak? And the answer is no. So I learned to stop wearing a mask and come back to my true self. And it was only then where I was able to take chances, make mistakes, lighten up, and learn from them. And believe me, I'm still learning. When you decide to trust your whole self, you will find so much that's right inside. So much knowing of what's true and what matters, so much life and heart, so many strengths. And most importantly, you give others a reason to trust you. According to Success Magazine, the #1 trait of trustworthy people is authenticity. People simply want to be around others who are real. When you show your own individually beautiful authenticity to this world, you will become more trustworthy to those around you, making it easier for you to reciprocate this trust. It's a known fact by psychological scientists around the world that humans are naturally inclined to trust others, but don't always. They found that the hormone oxytocin is released in our body to reduce stress when we interact with others. When it comes to trust, the oxytocin response is graded. The more trustworthy someone appears to be, the more oxytocin our brain produces and the more motivated we are to interact with them. This means that the more authentic and therefore trustworthy we become, the more people want to talk to us, the more relationships that we'll build. And now it's easy to say that when we start interacting more as a community and building these interpersonal relationships, that trust will just naturally occur, but that's not always the case. The more authentic you are, yes, the more willing people are to interact with you. Science proves that. But we're missing one key variable: patience. Do we have the patience to build a foundation of trust in our relationships? In today's society, I'd argue that in general we don't. But the reason it can be so hard to place trust in others is because we live in a reality where trust can be crushed in an instant, but requires gentle care in order to be built over time. The way I see it, there are two paths we can take in most situations. One is the path of experiencing pleasure immediately, and the other is the more difficult path of delaying pleasure for a greater purpose. It's fairly evident that we're currently living in a world that values the former. The need for instant gratification in today's society is everywhere. Our cultural norms encourage us to seek band-aid solutions and temporary comforts, basically whatever it takes to ease our discomfort now. This is apparent in the prevalence of casinos, quick-fix medications, and get-rich-quick schemes. I mean, come on, we get frustrated when our computer takes more than 2 seconds for a Google search. The fact of the matter is that desiring instant gratification is a hard trap to escape. So how can we learn to be more patient? Start to practice delayed gratification in our everyday lives. Wait until you have the money to pay for a car before you buy it. Bear through that difficult job if it means it'll help boost your career in the future. The more you do it, the more it will become a part of you and the more you will become it. The more we practice delaying gratification, the better we get at developing a tolerance for waiting, the more willing we will be to endure the slow, painstaking process of building trust. It may not be the instant pleasure that we as human beings desire, but it results in such a greater and more important reward in the future. Trust matters for our future. Imagine living in a community where we can lean on each other, depend on each other, be unified. That is where our future lies. Imagine living in a world where instead of getting caught in this constant cycle of broken trust, we instead are constantly showered with 3 simple words. I trust you. So please trust me when I say we're all capable of playing our part in creating this cultural shift, because I trust you. It starts in here and in here, and it continues with you.
Vinnie Caroselli.
Vinnie Caroselli. Fresh out of the water, jam-packed in a wooden bucket too small for the load, lie a cast of crabs anticipating their demise. Atop the pile awaits one crab in particular, planning an escape to ensure its safety. In an attempt to escape, this crab's efforts are quickly undermined by the others in the bucket, confirming the fatality of them all. The unfortunate experience of this crab is similar to the ones I encountered during my upbringing. I grew up in Upland, Pennsylvania, a small borough south of Philadelphia where more than 20% of the population falls below the poverty line, including my family. Growing up in this situation allowed me to quickly come to the harsh realization that not much opportunity presented itself within the walls of Upland, so I knew I needed to find a way out. Since kindergarten, I always saw education as a major key to success, thus going to college was always my dream. Like the crabs that pulled down their fellow crustacean, I perceived members of my community as antagonists to my escape from the bucket that was Upland. While in public school, I constructed the mentality that I should be destined for more. That is when a friend of mine named Tasia Rice introduced me to the Milton Hershey School. I knew in that moment that this was my way out. I learned that this tuition-free boarding school allowed students to earn upwards to $80,000 in college scholarship money and became immediately hooked, but others, not so much. Although the benefits of this school seemed to be something pulled out of a fairy tale, there were people in my life that I recognized as not wanting me to achieve this happily ever after. Just like crabs, humans tend to reduce the chance of success, self-confidence, and splendor of others who are capable of achievement simply out of ignorance, envy, and spite. This pattern of behavior is referred to and coined by Filipina feminist Natasha Raska as the crab basket mentality. Yet rather than falling victim to the crab basket mentality, I outlasted the doubters and stand before you today, a proud graduate of the Milton Hershey School and a first-generation college student. To get where I am, I had to embody grit. Grit is defined by psychologist Angela Duckworth as the combination of perseverance and passion for a long-term goal. While Duckworth's definition does resonate with my experiences, I argue that it is much more. Grit is not just having perseverance and passion. It is having the capability to let go, to accept help from others, and above all, to name your needs. I believe in grit and its power to help us through the challenging transitions in life. Being trapped in this bucket defines the crab's shared experiences. Although collective demise is not a common description we would equate with community, the crabs in this case are unified because of that. To escape the bucket, a crab would have to let go a part of their community and identity, losing a part of themselves in order to achieve success. To escape the basket in my life, I too had to learn to let go and lose a part of my identity so that I could shape my future for the better. I didn't have to lose a limb in order to stand before you all today, but the emotional turmoil that I experienced while escaping my crab basket took toll on me. Having to let go of family members, memories, and my home took grit. But without letting go and losing a sense of myself, I can't imagine what the future would have looked like for me. Embodying grit does not stop at letting go. It extends into having the capability to accept help from others. In the jam-packed basket, crabs grab at one another, seeing who can get the upper claw in order to escape. This king of the hill competition ends poorly for some, but for others opens up an opportunity to succeed. By maneuvering throughout the basket, a crab may unknowingly be lifted up. Rather than questioning this assisted path to freedom, this crab accepts the opportunity and ultimately ensures its safety. Similarly, I had to accept the help from others so that I could guarantee the achievement of my goals. Unlike the crab in the basket, the help I was offered was purposeful, which is why it took grit to accept the boost others were willing to give me, especially when I knew it was at their own expense. More times than not, people let pride getting in the way of accepting the help of others. Garrett Kaiser in Help, the Original Human Dilemma, states that there is a tendency to act as if it is a deficiency. There is an understandable fear that if you let your guard down, you'll get hurt, or that the information you don't know will be used against you. It is a vulnerable experience to realize that you need help. But rather than feeling weak, needy, or incompetent, grit helps us feel gratitude and helps us pay it forward in the future. Accepting the help of the Milton Hershey School was a life-altering decision for me and helped me escape my crab basket. So far, we have discussed how grit is about letting go and about accepting help. It is now time to explain the most difficult characteristic of grit, naming your needs. When the crabs are crowded in a basket and one is on its journey to escape, there is a chance that it may take part of another crab with them. This time, the freed crab is not losing a part of itself, but pulling away from others, risking the chance of detaching someone else's claw for the purposes of its own advantages. Although this moment can be perceived as selfish, this crab named its needs and took its shot at escaping to ensure its safety. Just like that crab, I too have had moments of perceived selfishness through my journey, but have persevered through those thoughts thanks to grit. My sisters Brandy and Melanie are two of the most hardworking, independent women who I look up to every day, but they weren't offered the same opportunities as me. They didn't have a Milton Hershey School opportunity or first-generation college student experience, and because I looked up to them, I always thought that if they didn't have the chance to do all these things, why should I? But I had to risk escaping my crab basket. That is when it came time to manage my guilt, to name my needs, to ultimately exhibit grit. I took the generosity of my sisters with me, and I'm forever grateful for what they have done and do all I do in honor of them. My story is one about escaping poverty to become a first-generation college student. Maybe yours is about creating equal opportunity for all the races, empowering women to reach their full potential, or fighting for the love we all deserve. No matter what your story is, we've all accepted the embodiment of grit by coming to Juniata. In the Principles of a Liberal Arts Lifestyle, Juniata College states that a successful life embodies a spirit of sustainability. That takes grit. Rooted in this community is an unceasing, unrelenting, grit-filled mentality that is ever present in all we do. Events like Who's Your Neighbor allow speakers to reflect on their experiences, challenge students to think about who they are, and then motivate students to use those experiences as instruments to pursue something they are passionate about. Open Mic Night sponsored by It's On Us and The Spot embrace the vulnerability of students by allowing them to share their grit-filled journey through interpersonal violence. But best of all, it is the mere daily interactions that show how gritty we truly are. Conversations in the dorm, walks in the hallway, and meals at Baker are filled with stories of grit. Whether big or small, these are stories of tribulation in which grit helped you transition to a better point in your life. Are you feeling trapped? Let go. Are you feeling trapped? Accept help. Are you feeling trapped? name your needs. And by doing all of this, I hope that you too can believe in grit and its power to help us through our challenging transitions in life.
Theresa Joson.
Theresa Joson. A man named Norman fell in love with a woman named Lisa. They were never supposed to fall in love. The true conflict laid within their individual religious faiths, which forbid their love. Now, even though Lisa knew that if she were to marry Norman, it would damage her relationship with her family and with God. But you know, young lovers, they couldn't help it. They would not, they could not let anything hold them back. When Norman was ready to propose, he sat down with her family and asked for their blessing to take her hand in marriage. So he gathered her parents, all 8 brothers and sisters, stood before them and asked, "Can I marry your daughter?" Without hesitation, all 10 of them said no. Norman and Lisa are now faced with choosing no, listen to your head, or yes, follow your heart. It's as if they were stuck inside a glass box, seeing both sides, but filled with fear and doubt. Do they take the risk to love? I believe in taking risks to actively seek change and create our future. And this means breaking through the glass of fear and doubt, embodying courage, confidence, and resilience. Taking risks requires courage. Aristotle defined a brave person as one who faces and who fears the right things and with the right aim and in the right way and at the right time, and who feels confidence under the corresponding conditions. Norman, standing before Lisa's family, earned him the title of being brave, being courageous, asking for what he wants. So what is it that you need to be courageous about? At times, we're faced with fear and uncertainty, which gets in the way of discovering our true path because we don't want to disappoint society or our families, especially when we're unsure. It leaves us with that gut-wrenching feeling inside. But courage is the heart of igniting action. Our future depends on what we think is true and right and moving forward with those beliefs. In 2005, Steve Jobs was the keynote speaker at Stanford. He explained his life endeavors that were influenced by courage. Don't be trapped with dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Tonight, we are here at an event where 7 Juniatians follow their heart and embrace their courage to argue for what they believe. Now, this isn't the only risk we take here at Juniata. In fact, it happens more often than we realize. Taking risks here can benefit you and the Juniata community. For example, many people here enter Juniata to pursue a career in the science field, myself included. We had the biggest dream of becoming a doctor or a famous researcher, but found that that wasn't our true path. In fact, some of you may be experiencing this right now. We had to take a risk, find the courage, and face the sudden change and disappointment that now we had to create a new future. We stepped out of our comfort zone to discover new beginnings, and as a result, we became confident in making change even when we didn't know the exact outcome. Practicing courage builds confidence, and practicing confidence encourages us to perform courageous acts. Norman was courageous and confident in his love for Lisa, and thus was willing to take a risk. Risk-taking strengthens confidence. Norman was confident in asking for Lisa's hand in marriage, and Lisa reciprocated by being ready to say yes. Facing these fearful uncertainties, we must build the confidence to overcome those fears, even when the outcomes are not in our favor. John Baldoni, an internationally recognized leadership educator, states, "Confidence is like a muscle. If you want it, you must develop it. And once you have it, you must continue to exercise it by getting out of your comfort zone." The most important aspect to confidence and risk-taking is that you put yourself out there without knowing if you'll succeed or fail. President Obama once said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek." So if we want to see change in any aspect of our lives, if we want to see change to create our future, we must find it first in ourselves. This is how we become resilient. Risk-taking demands resilience. With risk-taking, things don't always happen the way we want them to. Norman and Lisa have always acknowledged the complications between their conflicting religions, but they had confidence in their powerful love. Even though the two sides spent hours and hours arguing, Lisa's family remained firm with their answer. Norman ended the argument and said, "If I walk out this door and she follows me, I will marry her." Lisa's brothers and sisters immediately grabbed her, holding her back while her parents locked the door. She kept fighting and fighting until she was finally able to release herself. But she and one of her brothers simultaneously ran to the front door, but her brother beat her to it and blocked it, forbidding her to leave. Lisa, the strong woman that she is, broke the glass of the living room window jumped to run after Norman. They finally got married, but for 5 years, Lisa's family didn't speak to either of them. Was it worth it for Lisa to risk her family for Norman? Did she fail as a daughter? Did she regret the decision she made? In the midst of this family adversity, Lisa had become resilient. She took a chance with courage and confidence to change her life. Risk-taking is taking that chance, and yes, it may have happened the exact opposite of what she hoped for, but because of resiliency, she is stronger in facing new challenges. She saw the future she envisioned, but I'm sure it wasn't easy. Elizabeth Edwards, wife of past Senator John Edwards, argues, "Resilience is accepting your new reality, even if it's less good than the one you had before. You can fight it, you can do nothing but scream about what you've lost, or you can accept that and try to put together something that's good." I can tell you right now that Lisa did not regret the decision she made. This story isn't some made-up cliche love story. It's actually the story of my mother and father. Because of their courage, confidence, and resilience, they broke the glass of fear and doubt to create a shared future. After 5 years, my mother's family was able to separate my father's religious identity from the love of my mother, leading to family acceptance. My parents have been happily married for 27 years now and lived the future they envisioned from the start. Now, through their parenting, they continue to take risks for my sister, my brother, and me. Now, I tell you the story of my mother and father to inspire others to take risks, break the glass of fear and doubt. My parents took a risk that changed their lives for the better. I believe in taking risks to actively seek change and create our future, and this means breaking through the glass of fear and doubt with courage, confidence, and resilience. So I challenge you to take a risk and shatter the glass.
Shamya Butler-Bonner. And before I get started on my speech, I'd like to warn everyone that there is some mild language within it. Okay. Belief, a shared future. What shared future? You may believe in something that will help our shared future, but that doesn't apply to me. You may also trust in the future, but that doesn't apply to me either. Why? Picture this, an African-American woman working diligently at 10:30 p.m. on an essay due at 12 midnight. Now, in my opinion, she should have started earlier, but she likes to procrastinate. Her friend walks up to her with a solemn look on her face, and she inquires about it, but nothing could prepare her for what she was about to say next. Earlier that day, there was a group of Black and Hispanic prospective students eating lunch, and a student that goes here let the words, "Look at those niggers," tumble from his lips. Now imagine my shock when a college that I chose to go to, a community I chose to be a part of, figuratively spit in my face. Even in instances where statements said aren't supposed to be hurtful, your jokes are my jabs. Now, you're probably wondering why I brought this up. Growing up, I've heard from almost every adult that my generation was going to be the one to change the world. So that means that we are the hope for the future. But I don't feel that hope, because I don't feel a part of this tomorrow. I don't feel like I can trust it like everyone else, and it's the same for anyone else on this campus who is not white. Before we shape a future together, we must share reality today. How does it feel to sit as an audience listening to these speeches about the future and feeling as though you can trust it? I don't feel that. In fact, I often wonder if I will even live to see my own success in the future. Let me take you back to early 20th century to a small town in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Greenwood, it's called. It was famously known as America's Black Wall Street. That was until the Tulsa race riot of 1921, in which white residents massacred hundreds of Black residents and razed the neighborhood within hours. It was one of the most devastating massacres in the history of U.S. race relations, destroying the once thriving Greenwood community. And this was all because of how successful the Black Wall Street was. Now let's fast forward to the present with Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and the Charleston church shooting. History sadly has a way of repeating itself, and now you can see why I worry. Like Maya Angelou said, we can't know where we are going until we know where we have been. If we are going to shape it tomorrow, we are going to have to share it today. I believe in inclusion. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, which is how many steps it's going to take. First, we must talk inclusion into our reality. Then we must act inclusion into our reality. And lastly, we must embody inclusion. Now, each one is important on its own, but when combined, talking, acting, and embodying inclusion could have the possibility to change our today, so together we can shape our tomorrow. So what do I mean when I say talk inclusion into our reality? What I mean by that is we must be able to address as a community that it is a problem. It might make you as the majority feel uncomfortable, but for us, it's something that often weighs on our minds and impacts our health. To us, it means that we are not a priority, and therefore we carry these burdens on our shoulders, and it just keeps piling up. A recent national survey done by Anel B. Prim found that compared to white students, students of color report higher rates of emotional distress while in college. Stigma, reluctance to seek help, and a cultural mistrust of mental health professionals among students of color are barriers that often lead them to suffer in silence. In fact, students of color are half as likely as their white counterparts to seek help. This can lead to a number of different mental health issues like depression and anxiety. So you see how important it is for us to be able to unload that weight onto someone, because we can't carry that on our own all the time. And if we are experiencing this on campus, then imagine what it'll be like out there. So talking inclusion into our reality helps, but it isn't enough. We all need to act inclusion into our realities. What do I mean by acting into our reality? I mean going out and showing support. There are a number of clubs on campus where you can hear stories of our experiences, and there are events that we organize on campus, like, for example, the event that the Emoji Club scheduled last year, where we stood at a football game and showed our support for the Black Lives Matter movement. That was a perfect example for you to act inclusion into your reality. There was a study I found in the book titled Advancing Diversity and Inclusion in Higher Education. Students report less discrimination and bias at institutions where they perceive a stronger institutional commitment to inclusion. Now we'll bring it back home and look at Juniata's mission statement about diversity. Quote, quote, "We are resolute in our work to improve multicultural understanding by recognizing the values of being a citizen of the world in an increasingly global and diverse community," end quote. Now, that's ideal, but is it real? According to Juniata, 22% of our student body comprises racial and ethnic minorities, domestic and international. Now I'm going to say it again. According to Juniata, 22% of our student body comprises racial and ethnic minorities, domestic and international. It's impressive, but it could be so much more. If I had a nickel for every time a student of color has come up to me and said that they were going to leave this place because of how alienated they felt from everyone else, I would have enough to pay my 4 years of tuition. So talking and acting inclusion to reality might get us closer to shaping our future together, but we also need to be inclusive. Now you're at a point where you have an understanding of what being inclusive is, so much so that it becomes natural, not partly, but wholly. There's no hesitation when it comes to calling out your peers or complete strangers when a problematic statement is said. It is just simply who we are, is it not? Now we are ready to shape a future together. You now know that it is important for our shared future to be inclusive. According to the Century Foundation, integrated and diverse classrooms in which students learn cooperatively alongside those whose perspectives and backgrounds are different from their own are beneficial to all students, including middle-class white students. Promoting diversity and inclusion lowers the risk of stereotypes being developed, and students become more comfortable with people of other races, which leads to a dramatic decrease in discriminatory attitudes and prejudices. Like the great Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." I do believe we can change our today so we can share a tomorrow, but until we share our today, we are not going to ever share a tomorrow. So you need to talk inclusion into your reality, act inclusion into your reality, and you need to embody it to be inclusive. I want you to be engaging with questions like, how can we make people of color on this campus feel welcomed? Question yourself, what haven't I been doing? How am I being more inclusive? If we are the hope for the future, and we are going to be the ones to change society like our elders say, then this is the most important task I place upon you. Start conversations, support us. Even if you don't know how to, there's always room to learn. The worst you can do is stand by and watch. I want to challenge you when you walk out of those doors to go to at least one club on campus that is run by students of color. I challenge you as a Juniatian to follow these steps to the letter. It is important for us as a Juniata community to and the generations to come after us when we leave here. Not only for that, but for my generation when we go into the world. Now, here's a poem by Valina Dillard that I found so appropriate for this occasion and to describe how I felt after that lunch incident and how I feel almost every day. We aren't from the same race, but by soul, we live in the same world. You may think I'm nothing. Just push me into the mud knowing we both have the same colored blood. If we want to work towards a new future like most of you say you do, then we must first work towards a positive, inclusive today so our Juniata community can have a positive, inclusive tomorrow, because we do, after all, share the same colored blood. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we all share the same colored blood. Buenrrostro.
Buenrrostro. I believe in the power of a ball. Any ball of any color, texture, or size. They bounce, they fall, and they roll, made with the purpose to be put into action and move at any moment. In 8th grade, I remember being in my general science class, and the first time I was ever exposed to any physics. Now, don't get me wrong, gravity likes me a little bit too much, and momentum I can never seem to grab onto, but it was the first time I was ever learning about any of its theory. My teacher, Mr. Brown, drew a line on the board, a half of a hill and a circle sitting at the very top. He asked us if the ball would be able to move on its own, and we said no. He then asked us if the ball would ever be able to move. Most of us said no because it was a drawing on a chalkboard, but nonetheless, he continued to explain that the ball at rest would always have this thing called potential energy. As long as it was at rest, and it maintained its form, it would have any potential conserved energy to use. Any energy exerted on it would only propel its movement further, and as long as it was at rest, it would always have potential. Aristotle discusses this idea of innate potential within his philosophy of potentiality. Potentiality is defined as the inherent power a thing has to produce change. What if I told you potentiality could apply to people? Everyone has potential that can cause great change in the world. This I believe. What if we recognized individuals' unique gifts, affirmed their authentic selves, and realized that a community of differences could come together to unleash an unstoppable force of change for the common good? Sometimes, for one person, the smallest things can keep their ball rolling. That same year of middle school, where I learned about balls, I participated in the school science fair. In all honesty, it was because a classmate of mine convinced me it would look good to colleges. And being born as the result of the typical Latino American dream, college is the end-all be-all. That pushed my ball just enough, and I fearfully accepted the fact that I needed to come up with something. I did it with the overwhelming memories looming over me of all the teachers that vocalized year after year how little they expected of me. I was forever disadvantaged in their eyes, a result of racial and biological flaws, and I believed it. I remember the announcement that the fair had begun, and then everything was a blur. My ball had been pushed, and it was rolling, minute by minute down the hill. I was nervous, but I clasped my hands behind my back, and I just started talking. I remember passing out copies of our research, answering questions, and wishing I hadn't formatted that stupid table in Word instead of Excel. An immense amount of relief came over me when ceremonies wrapped up. And then while I cleaned up my station, I heard screaming and rapid Spanish quickly approaching, with my name sprinkled in between the teeth of a bright, wide smile. I still remember how tight my mother squeezed me as her voice echoed in the cafeteria. Lo vi en ti. Tú lo tienes. Su poder. I saw something in you. The spark. I saw the power. Her words changed me forever. Even thinking about it now, I can feel my whole body overflowing with energy and emotion. No one had ever recognized my unique potential before. I felt confident and secure, well-informed but not too cocky, personable yet powerful. I left that science fair a changed person. Everything I always hoped I could be but never knew had come true. When addressing an audience is now statistically the most fear-inducing thing in a person, second only to death, I felt empowered. Because of that moment, I stand here before you, at the Juniata College Bailey Oratorical, harnessing that potential one more time. I stand here before you to show you the strength of your influence in unleashing the potential of others. How do we nurture the potential growing self in others? We must bring a person to believe that they should exist as their authentic self. Abraham Maslow, the father of self-actualization, put it best. We crave and we fear becoming truly ourselves, and for good reason. There's a world full of people living their truth, but for some reason, we still tend to value the easily consumable identity the most. Newsflash. If someone is easily consumable, they are sacrificing their unique perspectives and stifling their full potential. It's easier to sustain ourselves in mediocrity than to challenge ourselves to be authentic and expect the same from others. In our society, we both actively and passively forget about those that don't exist in accordance to this conformist lie. We push them aside, whether from fear or the feeling of threat. But I want to encourage you to look beyond that fear. Just take a look at notable individuals like Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, migrant worker rights activist Cesar Chavez, and queer rights activist Silvia Rivera. Even when the world stripped them of the space to exist and deny their identity as human, they moved forward. And we have the power to deliver to others a single word, a phrase, or a feeling that speaks to them to be true to themselves and push forward. When we recognize the spark in others, encourage their potential authentic self no matter how different or unique, we become a force for change that is unquestionable. How can our belief and support in each other create a stronger community, celebrating our differences? Our belief in each other sets the ball rolling. It can strengthen our community, and it can bring about inclusive change. There is an immense amount of progress we are willingly letting slip through our fingers. People believe in the power of likeness, but do not see the strength and movement involved with difference. Difference moves us, and lucky for us, there's growth occurring every day by the hands of those encouraged to fulfill their potential. If the mission statement of our institution really is meaningful to us, we should be empowering all of our students and teaching them that they really can begin to change humanity, starting here with our home. Together, by acknowledging what we see in each other, we engage with each other. We push ball after ball, building upon that momentum. We shape what we want to see around us, whether it be in the form of opinion or identity or something more concrete, and we will always be reaching in one way or another to unleash the limitless potential that each of us has. We as a community can choose to encourage the action in others and create change through actualized potential. As Winston Churchill put it, continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking our potential. We don't realize how we have come to use our potential again and again throughout our lives. Those moments where our ball is at rest, manifesting all that silent energy until we receive that vital push. Many of us can remember that teacher or mentor that gave us hope that we really could accomplish all those far-fetched dreams or that little thing way out of our comfort zone. And now, it's our turn to do the pushing, to get someone's ball rolling. We are at our most unified, at our strongest, using the momentum of the support around us to cultivate our differences and accomplish any small or great thing we were always meant to do. With our potential, we unleash the potential of others. So I want to encourage you to reveal to someone their potential, show them their hidden virtues, and get their ball rolling. Then we can bask in the energy of our diverse influence and be the change we want to incite in our world and our minds.
Thank you to all of these amazing speakers. Can we give them a round of applause one more time? So don't run away. The judges are going to take a little walk down the hallway. They should be back within 15 to 20 minutes. I need to turn things over to Echo, who is representing the Communication and Media Club, and we'll talk to you about some door prizes and all sorts of fun, funky stuff. Thanks again, everybody.
All right. I feel a little weird being up here after all those fantastic speakers. Yeah, wow. So, Communication and Media Club, we have refreshments outside if you guys want to grab them, and you all received a ticket when you came in. So we've got a raffle, and I forgot to bring the basket up. All right, so they're going to grab it for me. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do our raffle, and then you guys can duck out and grab snacks and stuff. All right, and
Well, did they deliver or what? Thank you so much, each of the students, for your work in putting your thoughts into words and sharing with us your passion for tonight. We very much appreciate that. Okay, you ready? Here we go. All right, we're going to start with the People's Choice Award. You all voted, hopefully, and this year's 2019 Bailey People's Choice is none other than Taylor Hallabuk. I forgot to mention the judges. One more round of applause for our judges tonight. Thank you so much. That is tough duty, isn't it? We talked over dinner how difficult it can be, and thank you very much. We appreciate your time with us this evening. Okay, we're going to start from third to first. So in third place, Shamya Butler-Bonner. About that. Well done. Okay. In second place, we have class of 2020, Vinnie Caroselli. All right, here we go. There's the cup.
You don't get to take this home.
It's not like the Stanley Cup. Nothing goes in there tonight. And our 2019 Bailey Oratorical winner is Taylor Hallabuk. I heard speech. Did I hear speech? Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We'll see you next year at the Bailey 2020. Thank you so much for being a part of tonight's Bailey Oratorical. Judges, stick around. Our finalists, stick around for some speeches. Thank you, everybody. Be safe going home.